Let's have a session on employee representation and employee involvement. The key thing to recognise is that these are essentially interchangeable terms. Interchangeable terms because the key thing is with employee representation and employee involvement is that you're trying to get the employees involved into the decision-making process. And the methods you might use to get your employees involved in the decision-making process could be as follows. Number one, you adopt a more democratic management style. Number two, quality circles, you introduce them to the business to make those continuous improvements and improvements driven from employee level. Number three is you might have a suggestions box. Perhaps you have employee surveys that you use to try and aid and facilitate the decision-making process, and therefore employees have been involved in that. It's their suggestions. Number four, trade unions, being an organised association of workers. And number five, to complement those trade unions, you might have work councils. So work councils would be a committee of managers and employees to discuss issues within the organisation. Now, number four and number five, trade unions and work councils, there'll be cards at the end of this video to look into each of those in more detail. The next thing to consider is that employee representation or employee involvement depends on certain factors. The first is legislation. So government policy on industrial action impacts the influence of trade unions. Number two is leadership. As we said before, a more democratic leadership style will mean employees are more involved, and a more autocratic means they're less involved. Number three is size. So it's more straightforward in a smaller business to have employee involvement because simply you just ask their views. They might be next to you, might be very easy to get hold of them. You only have a few employees. But in larger organisations, you might need to put a more formal method in place, or it could be methods as so. I hope that helps, and I'll see you at the next session.